What's going on, everyone? This is Eric coming at you from just outside Hartford, Connecticut. Not live today. This is pre-recorded, of course. Um, Today's going to be a interesting video. Today's going to be a video discussing my favorite AFC players in the NFL. I'm going to do one on offense and one on defense for each team. You'll notice there are some players, I should say, that I don't have too much to say about. That's just, what it is. There's going to be other players as well that I'll be talking about for a couple minutes, and then I'll kind of say, oh, geez. And I do apologize for that as well. Slight disclaimer here. You will see a bit of connections to the Eagles, but, as a fan of the Eagles, I fall in love with certain players. They leave the team, and it stinks to see them leave, but I still root for them. That's just how it is. When you become a fan of a team, you root for the players, certain players, no matter what. And I'm not going to give up on a guy just because he goes to a different team. But anyways, today it's just going to be me. Patrick, as you guys know, does not follow football, just like I do not follow basketball. So we're kind of in a position where, this is a video I've wanted to do for a little while. And today's the perfect day to do it, get it started and get you guys content. Another thing, too, is the fact that right now we don't really have, every single player that I list is not guaranteed to be on a team. There are some guys that are kind of fourth string, tight ends or quarterbacks or whatever that are not guaranteed a spot and have to fight for it. So we'll see what happens. At the time you're watching this video, there's a chance that this guy could be cut. There's a chance that this guy could be traded. That's just how sports work. There's no guarantee on your staying on a team for any extended amount of time. Even if you sign a 20-year deal, you're not guaranteed to stay there. That's just how sports work. But anyways, we're going to jump into it. Again, this is just going to be AFC players today. My NFC players video will be going out probably tomorrow, or probably Saturday, Saturday, which is June 6th, which is D-Day. I will definitely be mentioning that in our video, but today, June 4th here, 2020, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a good video, but I'm going to go alphabetical by the team's city or location. But all right, here goes. So first off, in the AFC, we have the Baltimore Ravens. Now, keep in mind, I don't live in Philadelphia, so I don't have the same geographic rivalry for the Ravens that people who live in Philadelphia have. But I'm still not a big fan of the Ravens. But at the same time, I don't mind them. So for the Baltimore Ravens, my favorite offensive player, here we go, a guy who's not a guarantee to make the team. Wide receiver, DeAnthony Thomas. So DeAnthony Thomas, or DAT, or DAT, or whatever you want to call him, that's a guy who I remember when I was in middle school. This guy was late middle school, early high school. This guy was cruising through in Oregon's offense under Chip Kelly, and he just looked so good. It was insane. And I remember the Eagles fans were all like, oh, we want this guy. So I became so invested in him. And he's just such a good player. He's small, he's shifty, he knows how to play football. I like that for a running back or receiver, whatever. He got his Super Bowl ring last year with the Kansas City Chiefs, so I'm very happy for him. On defense for the Baltimore Ravens, we have defensive end Derek Wolfe. Interesting that both guys I choose for the Ravens are guys that they signed this offseason. Derek Wolfe is a guy who, not the best defensive end in the world. He also plays defensive tackle, has fought through injuries in recent years. But he's just a guy I like seeing on the defensive line. He has a good motor. He knows where to go. He doesn't draw too many, or he doesn't take too many penalties. So he's a guy I like. You're never really going to see him on the highlight reels, but you're not going to see him on the blooper reels either. Going on to the Buffalo Bills now. So Buffalo Bills are my AFC team. They're my favorite team in the AFC. I don't know if I mentioned that during the draft video. That seems like it was eons ago, even though it was a month and a half ago at this point. It's just time's been going a lot slower for us here with coronavirus going on. But, the Buffalo Bills have some very interesting players on their team. And I'm going to start off with my favorite offensive player from them, who's wide receiver Stephon Diggs. Now, you guys might be wondering why Stephon Diggs? Why do you have 3 players mentioned? They're all new acquisitions at this point. Simple. Minneapolis Miracle. I loved watching that play. I could tell you where I was. I was at my friend's house. We were talking, and I knew the game was almost over, so I pulled it up on my phone. He's not a big football fan. So he's just like, oh, yeah, and he starts talking to his dad. And I'm watching it, and his dad ends up coming over, and I'm showing all 3 of us, and everyone's just like, oh my gosh. Nobody really cares. They don't really care about football, but they knew they witnessed something amazing. So we were all excited. And then my sister, who doesn't follow football at all, sends me a text, and she says, oh my gosh, did you see what just happened? Because at this point, she's not a fan of football, but she does like the Vikings to an extent, because when she was younger, she just liked the Minnesota Vikings. No real reason to it. But, it connected everybody. And now Stephon Diggs is in Buffalo. So it makes it even easier for me to choose him. I like the guy. Great receiver. One of the best receivers in the league. On defense, my favorite player. What a surprise. Former Eagle safety Jordan Poyer. Jordan Poyer was a guy who was a late round pick for the Eagles. Never really made a name for himself. In Philly, I think he made the team, and then they cut him shortly after. He goes away, goes to Cleveland, plays well in Cleveland. But he's a guy that Eagles fans during that offseason enjoyed watching play. He's got good abilities. He knows how to hit. Yeah, he's not the best coverage guy, but the fact that he's still in the league at this point, making decent money, speaks volume. He would have been a good fit for any team right now, specifically if you need a special teamer or just an okay starting safety. Jordan Poyer is your guy. Now we go to the Cincinnati Bengals. So when I was doing this, I was kind of torn between 2 players, and I ended up going with wide receiver AJ Green. I was very torn between him, Giovanni Bernard. And I went with AJ Green. He's a guy who's very well respected. He's been around the league for almost a decade at this point. He's looked so good at times. He's looked iffy in the past couple of years. He's been dealing with injuries. I mean, obviously he didn't play in 2019, and it was surprising to see the Bengals give him the franchise tag this year, because it was kind of expected he was going to walk, and teams like New England were expected to be interested in him. But, of course, New England lost Brady, and yeah, so we'll see what happens with AJ Green. Now he actually has another quarterback. I do like Andy Dalton, but apparently he's not the answer. Yeah, I get that. He's just an average quarterback. Enter, Joe Burrow. We'll see what happens with that. But AJ Green's a guy who I just like. Physical receiver, strong. So, yep. Going on to defense, you got defensive tackle Ryan Glasnow. When he was in college, I was a big fan of watching college at that time. And he played for Michigan. Michigan's a team that I've always kind of rooted for. So I kind of got invested in him. He got drafted in like the 3rd round, I'm pretty sure. And I remember he was falling a little bit, and I was hoping that the Eagles would make a move on him. Obviously, they didn't. That's fine. He's a little undersized for a defensive tackle. Again, you can't expect to get everything that you want. He's just a guy I've kind of liked. I like his career path. Then we go to the Cleveland Browns. What a surprise. I have yet another wide receiver. This time it's wide receiver Jarvis Landry. Jarvis Landry is a guy who, he's not the best receiver in the league. He's a good slot receiver. Off the field, he's got these character concerns, I guess you could say. But he's just so talented, and I like the potential with him. I think he needs a quarterback, though. Yeah, you guys who are calling the Baker Mayfield this great quarterback at this point last year, where are you guys now? Like, honestly, where are you? I'm looking for you. If you're here, leave a comment, please. Like, you guys disappeared and whatever. That's fine. But, yeah, shouldn't have drafted Baker first overall. You should have gone with Saquon. That's neither here nor there, though. For defense for the Cleveland Browns, safety Andrew Sendejo. Now, I liked Sendejo before he was an Eagle. One of the rare times you're going to hear a former Eagle that I liked before he was in Philly. Sendejo's a hard hitter. He knows how to hit. Unfortunately, sometimes that hurts his team more than helps his team. But, Sendejo's a good player. Yeah, he makes some boneheaded mistakes. I'm talking about the Eagles-Packers game in this past season where he knocks his own teammate out and basically knocks him out for a few games. But he makes up for it sometimes. Other times he just goes to deliver this big hit that he shouldn't have tried to make, and he ends up missing, and it turns what should have been a gang of 6 into a touchdown, a 56-yard touchdown, because the safety missed his hit, But I like the physical players. Brian Dawkins is one of my favorite players of all time. And Sendejo's not Brian Dawkins, don't get me wrong. But sometimes some of the hits he delivers are Dawkins-esque. Now we get to the Denver Broncos. Offensive player, quarterback, Drew Lock. I fell in love with this guy once I saw his highlights in college. In my fantasy league, my dynasty fantasy football league, I drafted Drew Lock as a late round pick, as kind of like a project quarterback, and I was talking him up through the whole season. He keeps getting, he hurts his thumb and he ends up starting on the IR, or designated to return. He comes back and he plays good. Is he the quarterback of the future in Denver? I don't know. I mean, I fell in love with Paxton Lynch too, and we'll get to that when we get to that. Hint, hint. But on defense for the Denver Broncos, linebacker Von Miller. I've been a football fan for such a long time, and Von Miller's been so relevant for the past decade. I gotta respect him. If I don't like him, I got respect for him. Now, of course, he actually had the coronavirus, and he's fully recovered from it. So that's just kind of cool. Obviously, it's not something you wish on anybody, but it's just kind of cool to know he recovered from it. Obviously, he's an athlete. He's in the best shape of his life, but it's still really cool. He's just such a good player, very menacing guy and stand-up guy. I loved watching him play in Super Bowl 50. It was just a great game in general, and Von really took the show. Heading to the Houston Texans. I almost said Oilers, and I almost said Astros. Don't ask me why. For the Houston Texans, this is going to be one of the very few times I don't have a skills player quarterback as my favorite pick on offense. Tackle Laramie Tunsil. Here's the thing. Houston doesn't have... If you had DeAndre Hopkins would be an easy choice. Deshaun Watson's a guy I like, but sometimes you gotta go with the trench, and I'm going with the trench here with Laramie Tunsil. Of course, we all know the whole story there with during the draft, he's projected top 2, top 3 pick, and then that video leaks of him smoking with a bong and a gas mask and all that, and his draft stock plummets. He drops to 13 to the Miami Dolphins, and I remember that happening, and I remember when they pick him, my dad kind of comes to me, and he's like, hey, what do you know about this Laramie Tunsil guy? I've only seen this bong video, and he was not expected to be drafted by Miami, because he's a projected top 3 pick. I said, oh, he's a very good tackle, and he's held up to it. Is he a number 1 pick type of player? No. But he's a very good tackle. He's definitely a top 5 worthy player. So, he's a good player. He's a guy I like, and he's a guy who can hold down the tackle spot, whichever one you want him at, left or right, depending on where you're at, who your quarterback is, and all that. He's a guy who's definitely going to help out Deshaun Watson. On defense, I was really torn. I couldn't choose one player because I like both of these guys. This is the only time I have 2 players, or actually one of 2 times. The other's the Eagles, but so I went with defensive end J.J. Watt as player 1. J.J. Watt's a guy who, speaking of Von Miller, J.J. Watt's very similar to Von Miller, except better than Von Miller. He's all over the place, high motor. The minute that hurricane hit in Houston, What's he do? He starts a GoFundMe or whatever, and then he donates all this money, his own money. He gets more people to donate money. This guy's just, such a pillar in the community. It's a shame that they're talking about potentially trading him or cutting him, more likely trade. It's really kind of gross to me. This guy doesn't deserve that. This guy deserves a Hall of Fame status. This guy deserves a Super Bowl ring. I don't care where he gets one as long as it's not Dallas or New England. I want him to get a Super Bowl. This is a guy I have nothing but respect for. Speaking of Super Bowls, we have safety Jalen Watkins as the second guy. This guy, he hung around the Eagles for a while. But the story why I chose Jalen Watkins here is because of what's happened since. Right after the Super Bowl winning season, he goes to the they were LA Chargers, and right in the beginning of the season, he ends up training camp, he ends up tearing his ACL, and then last year he kind of sat around for a little bit. Somebody takes a shot on him, he gets hurt again, and now he's in Houston, and it's just kind of, he's a guy that he's never been a great player. He's never going to be a great player. He's a good special teamer. But I hope, beyond hope, he makes the team and plays and does well. I want to see this guy succeed in the NFL. Even though it's not with the Eagles, it's just, he's a guy that I've always, you feel for these guys. You get to know these guys, and I hope he succeeds. I really do. Heading over to the Indianapolis Colts offense, no surprise here. Tight end Trey Burton, Philly special. I remember when he was undrafted free agent. I remember when the Eagles had to carry 4 tight ends because he did so damn well in training camp and preseason that they had to keep him because of just at the time Brent Selleck was still there. At the time James Casey was on a bigger contract and they couldn't afford to cut him because the cap hit would have been too big. So, of course, Zach Ertz was there at that time too. But, Trey Burton came from basically nothing in the NFL, undrafted free agent, proved himself, got himself that big contract from the Bears, just got bought out by them, went to the Colts. I'm excited for him. I'm excited to see what he can do with the Frank Reich as his head coach. Time will tell. So, and on defense, I have, now this is one I was kind of torn on because there weren't a lot of names I really liked. I went with cornerback Rock Ya-Sin, and, he went to Temple. That's pretty much the only reason why I chose him. I watched a couple games of Temple in, the 2016-17 time frame and 18 time frame. And I remember seeing him play, and he's a good player. He's not the best, but he's a good player. Heading over to the Jacksonville Jaguars, I went with quarterback Gardner Minshew. Again, kind of a tough one for me. I didn't really see a lot of guys I had a lot of fandom with. It's kind of like, okay, well, and everyone knows Minshew Mania. Everyone liked Minshew Mania, except Nick Foles. But, I just remember and all the memes and everything that's come out about Gardner Minshew. I hope that this guy does everything he can. I want to see him succeed in the NFL. I want to see the Jaguars succeed in the NFL. They have to definitely get their act together, though, before they get relocated to London. But yeah, on defense, I went with cornerback DJ Hayden. Now, this might be a very surprising option, but a friend of mine is a big-time Raiders fan, and he loved the Raiders. So when they cut DJ Hayden, when I saw him the next time, he goes to me and he says, "Man, let me tell you, we just made the biggest mistake cutting this kid. He's done nothing wrong. Yeah, he hasn't lived up to the hype, but he's done nothing wrong." And I started watching the videos on him. He's not wrong. DJ Hayden didn't screw up. It's just the Raiders being the Raiders. They don't know how to properly take care of some of their players, and I think DJ Hayden's really got a chance to break out this year in Jacksonville. Granted, it's Jacksonville, but that's good for him because that means he's probably going to get good playing time. Now we head to Kansas City. And I almost said head coach Andy Reid. I love Andy Reid. I miss him in Philly, but it was time to go. That's all I'm going to say about Andy Reid. But I went with, for the offense, tight end Travis Kelce. Why? Of course, his brother Jason's an Eagle. His older brother Jason's an Eagle. And he was drafted the same year as Zach Ertz. And I actually wanted the Eagles to draft Travis Kelce. Now, part of it was me being a naive kid going, oh, hey, you know what would be a good idea? If the Eagles just got Kelce's brother. And that's the only reason why I rooted for him. Plus, of course, he went to Cincinnati. And I'm an American Athletic Conference fan, so I know a lot of these guys that went to American Athletic Conference schools. But it's just kind of like, okay, well, why else do you like him? He's one heck of a tight end. You know, he's a very good player. He knows how to play football very well. He dominates, and he is the best tight end in the NFL today. Yes, that includes over Zach Ertz, George Kittle, and Rob Gronkowski. I don't care. Gronkowski's been out of football for a year. You know, you guys want to trash me for that? Go ahead. I really don't care. For defense, I chose safety Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger. You know, I remember watching him play in the college football playoffs, and he was just all over the place. So I like him. There's not really much more reason than that. Then I just know who he is, and I remember watching him play in college and enjoying watching him play in college. Then we go to it's so weird to write out, Las Vegas Raiders. You know, it's the first time I've ever written it. It's the second time I've said it, the first time being during our draft video. And it still feels so weird to say it. For offense, come on, man. Quarterback Nathan Peterman. Nathan Peter meme. Come on, man. I've gotten so much fun out of just looking at the memes of this guy. I couldn't not have him as my number one. And then on defense, I went with cornerback DJ Killings. Yeah, he's got the Eagles connection, but he's in a similar boat as Jalen Watkins, except this time with the Eagles. You know, he gets hurt in 2017, but the Patriots, they get rid of him. Comes to the Eagles, doesn't do anything. He's a practice squad guy. He leaves the Eagles and ends up getting a spot on another team, gets hurt. You know, these are guys you just feel for. I don't think he's making the team, but he's definitely a good player. I hope he has a good career, but no matter what, he does have a Super Bowl ring. Now we go to the LA Chargers. Again, it feels weird saying LA Chargers still, and that's been a few years at this point. For offense, I went with tight end Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry's a guy I've always kind of had a sports crush on, so to speak. He's a guy who has always been good. Yeah, he's never been elite. He's had trouble staying healthy, but he's a good player, and I look forward to his career. I see nothing but, good potential with him, and I hope for nothing but the best for him. At this point last year, yes, my pick would have been Phillip Rivers, but Rivers is gone, and, I like Burton more than Rivers for Indianapolis. So then we go to defense. Easy pick for me. Defensive end, Joey Bosa. I mentioned earlier I'm a Michigan fan. People might be saying, what? Yeah, I know. But I just like the Bosa. One heck of a player. Yeah, I understand he's very controversial. He has an attitude of, I'm the guy, not you, me. But that works to an extent. You want these guys who do that. You want these guys who are going to, have that attitude, especially if you're a lineman. You need that attitude, offense or defense, because if you don't have it, there's going to be problems. You're not going to be able to do what you can do. You're not going to win these close battles. You're going to lose. You're going to keep getting pushed into the ground. You can't have that as a, defensive end. So, yeah, Joey Bosa, despite the fact that he went to the Ohio State University, I respect you. I like you as a player. Going on to Miami Dolphins, offense, tight end Mike Gesicki. Gesicki's a guy who, I remember when he got drafted, and I took a flyer on him in my fantasy football league, and my friends were like, what the heck? And yeah, it didn't pay off. But last year I took a flyer on him, and I held on to him, and he paid off. He was one of the few contributors for my team at the end of the season after my team got ravaged by injuries. And I respect it. I like it. And again, part of it is my dad's a big Dolphins fan, so I do kind of do more research on Dolphins players than other rookies and all that good stuff, so I can talk to him about it. And he does research and tells me things I didn't see. So Mike Gesicki's a guy I like. On defense, safety Bobby McCain. Now, there were a few guys I liked over Bobby McCain too, or with Bobby McCain, because they have Connecticut connections. See Byron Jones and Christian Wilkins. Byron Jones went to college here at UConn. Christian Wilkins went to high school in northern Connecticut. And it's kind of cool to know that Connecticut's on that team. But I went with Bobby McCain because I saw him play in person in college. Very cold game I went to. And he wasn't elite in that game. I mean, they got killed by UConn, but it was still a heck of a game to see, and I enjoyed watching it, and I enjoyed watching him, and I kind of fell in love with him as a player. He's been hanging around that team since 2015. I'm pretty sure he's drafted in 2015, 5th round, and I like to see it. I want to see the Eagles potentially make a run for him at some point, but I don't think it's going to happen. He's kind of too connected and invested in Miami at this point. Now we go to the New England Patriots. Now, if we did least favorite players at this point last year, I would have listed about 20 guys from the Patriots roster. I still can't stand a good portion of that roster, but we're doing favorites. So I went with wide receiver N'Keal Harry. Just a good young receiver. One of the few first-round picks the Belichick regime spent on a receiver. Yeah, year one didn't work out. He was injured, whatever. I get it. Respect him. He's a good enough player. I like the potential. Then we go with defense, and I went with defensive tackle Bo Allen. Now, yes, this is another Eagle, but hear me out. When I was watching the 2014 draft, and the Eagles snagged Bo Allen in the 7th round, I was ecstatic because Bo Allen was a guy I knew from when I watched Michigan football. He just dominated in the trenches. He's a great run stuffer. He doesn't really get the pass rushing, but this is a guy who, once he signed in New England, I texted 3 of my friends who are Patriots fans, big-time Patriots fans, and I said, you guys better treat Bo Allen right. That's one hell of a signing. Very underrated. 2 of them responded. They were like, who's Bo Allen? And the other guy goes, you're just saying that because you're an Eagles fan. No, I love Bo Allen. Look, he could have gone to the Dallas Cowboys, and I'd still be supporting him. I love this guy. I hope he, has a great career. He's got a Super Bowl ring. Unfortunately for him, now he's off the Buccaneers when they actually have a chance. But now he's on the New England Patriots. So he kind of, if there's any consolation to the Patriots, you lost Gronkowski and Brady to the Buccaneers, but you gained Bo Allen. I mean, something, right? Let me get to the New York Jets. Now, this was a tougher one for me on offense, and I went with Joe Flacco, the quarterback, obviously. The elite quarterback, Joe Flacco. And before you guys say, what? Didn't you just say you're not a big fan of the Ravens? What? Yeah, but Flacco did always play well against Tom Brady. So that does a good amount for you. And the fact that he went to Delaware State, what's that, like a Division II, Division III school, and came into the NFL and did well in the NFL, I respect that. He's got a Super Bowl ring. He was heavily tied to the Eagles this offseason before they made a head-scratching selection with Jalen Hurts in the 2nd round that I'm still confused about. But, Joe Flacco's a guy I like, and I hope he does well. Unfortunately, he's on a team that's kind of iffy, but, the minute Darnold kind of starts screwing up, Flacco's going to go in for a couple games. So, then we get cornerback, Byron Poole for defense. Poole is a guy I've always just kind of liked on defense when he was on the Falcons and all that. Underrated player. Not going to make highlight reels day after day, but he's not going to make the blooper reels for getting burned day after day. He's just a solid player that if he gets cut, I want to see him go to a team like the Eagles or the Bills, but I don't think he's gonna. He's good enough that he can hang around in the league. specifically on like a team like the Jets. We're near the end of the AFC already, and it's so just, there's so many good teams here, so many players I like, but now we're hitting the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Pittsburgh's an interesting case for me. Pittsburgh's a team that I used to completely dislike, but as I've gotten older, it's kind of like, okay, well, there's no real point in disliking the Steelers, and part of it was probably because, I was in school surrounded by Patriots fans, and they all hated the Steelers, so it kind of bought into the hatred because it's like, okay, these are guys who are in the same commonwealth as the Eagles, so I might as well dislike them, and I can use that as my reason. Plus, Ben Roethlisberger, very shady guy. Very shady guy. So there was nothing wrong with disliking Ben Roethlisberger. But now we're going on to their offense, and they have Paxton Lynch. I told you guys I would get to him later. Here he is. Paxton Lynch is my guy. When I went to that game, Paxton Lynch was the quarterback for Memphis. Yeah, he didn't play good. But you know what? That's fine. Paxton Lynch is one of my favorite guys. And one things, I will admit when I screw up. And I screwed up when I was talking to my friends. And I said, man, the Eagles should stay put or trade back and get Paxton Lynch over Carson Wentz. I said that. I screwed it. I screwed the pooch there. That was a bad choice. That was a bad opinion. But, I still like Paxton Lynch. He's on his third team at this point. I hope he gets his career back on track. But I don't think he will. I just think it's kind of a case of the yips at this point where he's kind of just done, unfortunately. I don't think he has it in him anymore. And it's a shame. I saw it when he was playing college, but I don't see it now. Defense, I mentioned his brother earlier, linebacker, TJ Watt. I almost went with Derek Watt for like a split second when I was going with the Steelers offense, but I'm like, wait, Paxton Lynch is on this team. I can't do that. Plus, you guys would have been like, is this guy getting paid by the Watts or something? But TJ Watt's just one heck of a player, one of the best pass rushers in the game, especially from the linebacker spot. Now, they do run a 3-4 there, so a pass rushing outside linebacker isn't the biggest surprise in the world. But it's still kind of crazy. Good player, though. Again, his brother's got this big heart and does all these donations and all that. I'm expecting TJ to do some things like that in the future. Lastly, in the AFC, we have the surprise of the AFC last year in the Tennessee Titans. Now, for offense, so many people are in love with Derrick Henry. Not me. Sorry, Jordan Howard still got more rushing yards than you in your career at this point. And that's saying something. They entered the NFL at the same time. So that's just, again, no. Sorry, Derrick Henry. Not a fan. We're going to go with another tackle with a Michigan connection, Taylor Lewan. Now, he's a guy who's kind of not been the best in these past couple years, but he's still a good enough player that I enjoy seeing him play. I was hoping they'd get into the Super Bowl to an extent because, everyone's kind of rooting for the underdogs last year at that point. And Lewan would have been a guy I would have liked to see make it and get the ring. But alas, we got to see a bunch of Chiefs players, which I'm fine with too. So Lewan's just a guy, it's kind of tough to start talking about tackles, but he's definitely one of the top tackles in the league. Definitely a top 10. And lastly, for defense, linebacker Vic Beasley. Nothing really much to talk about for him. He's just a good linebacker who's kind of been caught on some rougher times lately. What didn't really pan out in Atlanta like they'd hoped, but still a good enough player that there's potential for him. But all right, that's the end of our AFC video for my favorite players in the AFC, both offense and defense edition. If you liked the video, feel free to like and subscribe, or leave a comment if you're not comfortable. If you want to, I should say. Yeah, this is unedited, so I do apologize if there's a couple moments where I kind of jump around. And again, I do apologize for not having the camera on right now. It's just I still have to wait for a couple things to come in before my office area is set up and I can actually, record videos for you guys. Plus, at the same time, I don't want to be just having a video where I'm standing there doing nothing and you guys are like, well, this is boring. So definitely treat this as a podcast. When you're walking around or something, if you're doing some work, feel free to throw it on. You guys can hear my video. AFC video, always good. If you guys are interested in more NFL content, I will be doing my favorite NFC players video. That will be coming out on Saturday. Bearing any, unforeseen interruptions, it's always good to record those, get that out. Sometimes something's happen, but probably not today. So, this is Eric, heading out. Have a great day. Heartland Sports out.